Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Wherever you happen to find yourself in this weird, wild, wacky world we're in. This is another scene for Unmask Orlando, the Vampire the Masquerade venue. This evening's scene brings us into the heart of the city, to the Hyatt Regency Hotel on I Drive, where a unfamiliar face to most, but to those that... Oh, goodness. Really? During my intro? Come on.
Yay!
But to at least one kindred in the city, this is a somewhat familiar face. And we will let our friend Douglas do his intro.
Douglas arrives to the prince's office in an armored SUV. It's painted completely jet black. The windows are tinted black. May as well be opaque. May as well have been completely painted over. When he gets out, he is accompanied by 4 heavily armed men, including a 5th armed man with more advanced equipment, kind of a hulking brute of a gentleman, clearly the muscles of the whole operation. In arms that are clearly not legal, they likely have some sort of legal permit to have them as part of their business. This is borderline military grade weapons. As he simply walks, simply one of them opens the door in the back for Douglas, in which case he gets out. And as he gets out, he'll simply turn. He's in a white long shirt, black office trousers, and those black overalls with a black tie, and he simply says, "What's your vehicle? Delaney, come with me." And the hulking man will simply nod silently and follow him. The others remain with the vehicle. One gets back in the car. He keeps the engine on. The other 3 stand by the vehicle, dissuading anyone from going anywhere near it. And he will enter the main office. Does anyone attempt to disarm?
The office is actually on the top floor.
Pardon?
The office is actually on the top floor in the penthouse suite.
No. What I wonder. I wanted to ask whether his ghoul would be disarmed or anything of the like. Last time a kindred came through here, they were asked to cede their weapons.
Yep, Conrad would.
In which case, normally
it is Castiel, And this is pretty well known in the city, but Castiel is not here today. So.
Okay. In which case, McLean simply looks at his gore, kind of snaps his fingers as they sway into a pointing fashion towards Conrad. You heard the gentleman. And
Conrad would hold
Delaney
his
will
hand out.
disarm.
He will take the
He
weapons into kind of a back room and set
combat
them aside.
pistol, stun gun, extendable nightstick, and an assault rifle. I'm not talking like AK-47. We're talking like ACRs.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, Conrad would take them into kind of a back area that is got a gun safe for when people do come in with weapons. Because he knows, it's a kindred thing. They all have some kind of weapons on them. It's just gonna happen. And then takes them to the elevator.
Mm.
And turns the key for the penthouse suite.
What's Conrad's rank within the Tremere hierarchy?
He is a apprentice of the Seventh Circle.
Okay.
And an elder.
Yeah. Kind of an unofficial thing. I'm more important, but there's no word for it. Apart from the fact I'm old. But, no, Conrad, in which case, won't really refer to him by his title. Von Essen.
Conrad would nod. And he would know that normally it's Castiel. Who officially does not have rank because he cannot learn thaumaturgy.
He's a mundane.
Yeah, he has thaumaturgical inept.
McLean views that as very exploitable. McLean simply looks to Conrad. Got a fairly straight face. And kind of looks away as he simply states in a gruff voice, Castiel have the night off or something?
We've all been through. Grandsire praise you of what's going on down here.
How much would McLean know? How much is word spread through the Tremere about the Red Lister being in town at this point?
His sire would have told him most of it, especially because Darien had been briefly compromised.
Okay. Yeah, I heard an Alistair was coming to this domain.
Mm-hmm. Supposedly we're getting a Toreador. He seemed kind of roll his eyes at that.
Far be it from me to question the Justicar's judgment, but that does seem to be a very odd decision, given their
You
general
figure they'd
lack of
send a
knowledge
Tremere.
over. Pardon?
You figure they'd send a fucking Tremere.
Precisely. For a threat such as this, we're more qualified.
That we are.
Unless they
And
intend to send a message.
The elevator dings. And it opens up to a absolutely enormous suite. It takes up the entire top floor of the hotel, and this is no small hotel. Actually, I will get you. That is the hotel. That entire top floor is where Darian's suite is at.
Nice.
And yes, Darian owns this hotel, so
Got yourself a nice place here.
not mine. That would be your grandsire.
Know what I mean?
Conrad leads him to this office. He should be done in just a minute.
Mind if I take a seat?
Go ahead. I doubt he'll care. It's you, after all.
Very true. Very true indeed.
At that point, Conrad would kind of pat him on the shoulder and then head out.
See you around, Conrad?
He nods. Conrad kind of has a reputation. He is both adept in thaumaturgy, but also in the physical aspects as well. He's kind of rare in that. And it takes a minute, but eventually. Hang on, I'm gonna turn my camera off for just a minute so I can set this up without you seeing it. I know how much you like to do that too. Okay, there we go. Like I said, it takes a few minutes, but eventually these two come out of the room. Into the room, I should say.
Catches the region, right?
Yes. And he has probably met her because of Darian. At least if he's been down here any amount of time at all in the last year. But she looks very different now.
Regent, Prince, see you both. Good health?
Better than we were not long ago. Darian just nods and moves to sit behind his desk.
I can imagine. Word travels around quickly these nights. What was once, I can only assume, an issue that remained isolated to a state or city now spreads across a whole country within minutes.
That is a adjustment for me, given how recently I reawoke. Can I get you anything?
I'm quite alright, thank you.
She nods. She'll lean down and kiss Darian on the cheek before she heads out. Because she wants to go talk to Conrad. So it leaves just the two of them. Nasty business.
Nasty business and unfortunate timing on my part.
Quite
Been
alright.
spending most of my time flying around the East Coast trying to set up these. Help the locals set up their assets in Chantries.
Honestly, I'll say this. It's good you came now and not 2 weeks ago.
Not much of it is above my pay grade, but I'd consider this to be one of those exceptions.
Very true.
So yeah, I'm just back from business and spending most of my time in Manhattan, New York, New England, Jersey. Just keeping the clan finance, particularly where this about hit.
He nods.
They took out a good few number of our chantries, compromised a dozen more. We're back in business now, though.
Indeed.
Concerning that it required my assistance in the matter, but is what it is, I suppose.
Well, they were lucky to have you.
Yes, very much back home, as it were, although it appears home has moved on from me, it seems. So what's happened while I've been gone, notwithstanding the rather public news of Red Lister?
That notwithstanding, the Sabbat have been shockingly quiet.
Hmm.
You'd figure that they'd take advantage of this time of weakness.
Where are they situated?
Just outside the city, Lake Nona area.
Do they have another holding in a nearby town or port?
Yes, Daytona.
Wouldn't surprise me if they're shipping in Sabat to gear up for a crusade.
Yes. I'll have to have some of our eager to prove themselves probationary members have a look.
Hmm. I can assist in whatever capacity they need be, although I don't intend to set foot anywhere near the battle line. It's not my niche.
Oh, I don't intend on letting you. I don't put my blood at risk in that manner.
But we are of like minds. He smiles. So perhaps I should ask not what's going on then, but what needs doing. It's clear recent events have rocked the clan.
Yes, Our clan has been cast under suspicion in this city. In fact, we had a Toreador elder attempt to claim praxis out from under me.
What has occurred with him?
It's been dealt with.
Excellent.
Another one of the Toreador staked him. My sheriff.
Fantastic. It seems like a position will still be secure for the years to come.
Indeed.
If the kindred cannot even get their own clan to support them in their bid for praxis, then they may as well just walk into the sun on the spot.
I think the problem was he falls on the more traditional line. And when I say slightly more traditional, he is, well, about as traditional as they come.
Most elders are.
No. I'm technically an elder. And I don't think I'm that bad.
Not at all, not at all.
But
you know me well, Prince. I'm a very goal-oriented man. Tell me, what do I need to do here? I'm glad to see that the bid for praxis has been dealt with. How I can only imagine that suspicion and doubts linger over the clan as to your capability.
I'm sure they do.
I'm sure a refreshing phrase from your line may be able to assuage some of those doubts, given the right incentive.
Yes, indeed. We need to... Well, our chantry is compromised. As far as we know, he hasn't been back, but no one is comfortable going back there.
I can build you a new one.
Would be a shame to let that place go to waste.
It can be reclaimed after the Red List's destruction. This also gives us a convenient excuse to further cement our power in the city.
Indeed. We
2
have...
chantries will be in Orlando at the end of this conflict, as opposed to the one that existed before. I would consider that a trade up.
We didn't have one before. This one was one Katya bought, and Conrad secured with, well, his skill.
I would require Conrad's assistance in warding off the facilities after its construction, but that can be dealt with when the second chantry is constructed.
Exactly. For now, most of us are living with a bourgeois elder, of all things.
This is about a bourgeois elder.
Yes, Brannon, I believe is his name. Since most of our neonates and the rest of us lived in the chantry, we have had to seek other accommodations. I would gladly put them up here at the hotel, but some of them also feel that there's the potential that it could be compromised as well.
Okay, thanks himself for few moments. One thing I've noticed during my time perusing various besieged and alien chantries is that the Traumators always relied upon them ever so slightly too much. Chantry is a HQ of sorts, it's a very secure HQ, but due to how centralized it is and how significant it is towards the innovation of new rituals and the use of them, sheer invoking of them, we have rarely ever created assets outside of them, or other pole holes. We rarely have backup havens. We rarely have hideouts, other havens, places in which to stay in times of crisis.
Which, if I'm going to be frank, is one of our clan weaknesses.
The Red Lister has
We need to
clearly
start
exploited it.
thinking. We need to start thinking outside of our little box.
Then, allow me to suggest this. I have access to most major bank vaults in this city. I could probably secure at least a couple of them for you as havens. They would make very secure bolt holes, in addition to the fact that they would not be easy for either your enemies to get into or extract you out of. They're too heavily reliant on mortal connections. Of course,
Harry nods.
there is always the sorceries that come naturally to our clan, but the goal to invoke them within such a heavily secured location, if such sorcery were to ever be attempted within the vault, there would be an army of policemen there within a time frame of about 45 to 60 seconds. He says that with a degree of confidence because he knows how long it generally response time is for for police to respond to such a long distance because it's so rigid. I guess it's just something he understands as sort of a professional of the field.
He nods. I like this idea. I can see why you're doing so well.
If you require something more out of the way, because I would have the means to transport you in and outside of the vault without you being without the clan being compromised. But of course, I'm not the only one with connections within the city's banking system. So I will purchase a few properties to ensure that we have a few hideouts off the grid, should it come to that. Should the vault idea fall through, we can always move.
Yes, especially considering most of our feeding ground is in Windermere.
Windermere is quite isolated.
It is.
That is far be it from me to question my prince, but I'd not consider it a particularly safe place for you to reside at this point in time.
Oh no, especially considering that's where the chantry is. I don't think it's the best idea.
No. It would perhaps be easier to reside within the inner city. Of course, many kindred gather there. It is a popular place to feed, but it allows you to blend in with the crowd. And there are more places for us to hide and plan should we need to. Certainly, it will create more work for our enemies until the Chantry can be properly reclaimed. Where would
Yes.
you like for me to build your new Chantry?
I'll have to take a look at the map and see what domains have already been established.
Okay.
I would like to avoid any kind of overlap.
Given that the current Chantry exists in Windermere and as such is fairly out of the way, it may be prudent to set one up more within a more centralized area of Orlando.
It's funny, I've had some suggest making this place the Chantry.
Potentially. I suppose it depends on how public you want it to be.
Precisely. I'd prefer something a little more private. We do have floors for kindred, but that's another matter entirely.
It's a place that is easily accessible, but also easy to hide within. Perhaps, let's see. He actually begins thinking. A place such as the area of northeast Orlando may do well. It's quite far away from the main rack of the city, but it's close enough to the center that it would be easy to commute from one place to another. More open access to the city's resources. Also blends in quite nicely. I suppose it depends on what we want the Chantry to front as.
Yes, indeed. We've got one that's simply a home. Question is what to make the second one.
I would recommend a skyrise, masqueraded as some sort of administrative or financial business.
Given that you have the financial sway, shall
Perhaps
we say,
we could
would indeed be
also,
fitting.
yes, we could also set it up as some sort of R&D firm, some sort of scientific research facility. would be an appropriate cover for the resources and ritual components we so often need without arousing much suspicion. Also allows us to build this in a fairly open-ended way because obviously these facilities will have administrative and financial departments of their own. I would prefer a skyrise, but it's hardly the only model we could use.
He
Frankly,
nods.
I just want a skyrise because it looks very imposing. The skyrise
Are
also
you
has
sure
many
you're not a
flaws.
Ventru?
Well, the skyrise also has many flaws associated with it. The charm tree need not encompass all of them. In fact, it would be wise not to. Any kindred that infiltrated would find most of the building to be entirely normal and as such unworthy of attention. Also means if they do infiltrate certain aspects of the skyrise, particularly some of its more, as you know, mainly administrative or financial aspects, upon which or whatever level those departments reside on, I can simply chase them out of it as it, deeming it my property.
Indeed.
We could also go for, but we could also go for a more flat model. Obviously, most research facilities do not exactly exist in Skyrise. That'd be for more financial, administrative, legal properties. To be honest, we'd likely have many businesses within the same building.
Yeah, several of our clanmates have influence in those realms.
Given how we've been wounded by centralization here, it may be worth not doing that for the time being.
I
Although,
think Katya is one of the few that isn't necessarily as caught up in all of this
we could
as
use
far
it.
as business go.
We could, however, use it to invite other businesses to the constructed skyrise, in which case we could simply control their respective owners and influencers, simply providing us with even more power than we already have. A suitable safety net, if you
Indeed.
will, rather than centralizing our main assets, we centralize the safety net. Acts as a worthy decoy source. It's not where our main power base is, but it is an empowered aspect of it. Which could be. And
I like it.
merely, it kind of rolls his hands. Providing ideas ultimately is your decision, being the prince and the
Yeah,
most
technically
prominent
the
tremendous domain.
technically any decisions involving the Chantry fall on Katya, as she is the regent. And thus that is her baby, shall we say. But she is generally amenable to most recommendations.
I'll consider our options. I'll give her briefings concerning each one. I believe the research facility and the Skyrise fronting as a financial legal institution to be the most appropriate for the time being. Um, I would suggest a bank, but they fall under far too much scrutiny. They're good for havens, but not for dedicated chantries.
Yes, I will let you discuss all of this with her as well. Though a lot of this research and development and whatnot is going to be a bit of a culture shock for her. As she's only just recently woken from torpor.
In which case, I'll bring her up to speed.
Good, she could use it. I've been trying, but I'm not the best at all of this, so.
Where do her faculties lie?
Politics. If anyone should have been
Useful.
prince, it should have been her. The woman's got a mind for politics. She's not quite cutthroat enough. Well, I say that she's quite cutthroat.
A prince need not always be cutthroat, as often how many princes fall, as it was seen from the revolts of the 40s and the 50s and the 60s.
He nods. Indeed. Apparently she wasn't always like that. But none of my business.
No. I would want her to be wary, though. The kindred of the modern day are not as easily subdued as those of the 1700s.
Believe it or not, I think she's even older than that. She's closer to my age.
I can imagine. But needless to say, I have no intention of you becoming another Don Sebastian, so see what I can do about keeping the neonates in line, out of proper incentive, so that you can come to enjoy the Camarillo's presence here.
Yes, there's one of the young neonates, bit of a rabble-rouser. Vance, that was his name.
Send me on my own guy, I can't do that.
I can't hear you.
Don't send me on my own guy, I can't Inigo Montoya myself.
Oh no, you didn't let me finish. He's a rabble-rouser, but I gotta respect him.
I suppose we'll see where his loyalties lie in time. In the meantime, I'll get to work. Oh, pardon?
Indeed. We will, I suppose.
In the meanwhile, I'll get to work on these bolt holes for the clan, so you don't have to live with a bruiser anymore.
Don't get me
And
wrong. Waking up to see, Eve Wright every morning is not a half bad situation to be in, but what influences does Douglas have?
he has finance influence 5, but no more than that.
Okay.
It
Given the
basically means
circles
he can
runs in,
fund basically any project, but
yeah.
getting everything else is a bit different.
Given the circles he probably runs in, he would know who Eve Wright is. She's one of the top fashion designers in the country right now.
Interesting.
Was not known that she was kindred.
No.
Apparently she's betting the Bruja.
I see.
She herself is a extraordinarily old Malkavian.
Do we know the nature of her presence here?
No, we don't. We know her child is our primogen for Clan Malkavian.
I do not consider the arrival of, or rather the unveiling of a red list and her arrival here to be a coincidence.
It might not be, it could be, given their penchant for seeing things. It could be very simple in that, maybe she knew he was coming. Who knows?
For the time being, I'll stay out of her way. However, if she becomes an issue, feel free to call on me, and I will make arrangements.
He nods. So far, she has been nothing but hospitable, but if that changes, you'll be the first to know.
Good.
Do you require residence? Or have you already established a haven down here?
I have several properties scattered across the domain.
Good, okay.
I will be re-establishing myself in the city. If the, I suppose it is ultimately a decision of the individual involved, but if they wish to share with me their respective investments in sectors so I do not step on any toes, it would be appreciated. Otherwise, I very much intend to embroil myself in every aspect the city has to offer. In particular, its bureaucratic, legal, and industrial sectors.
I can tell you what most of them have their hands in. Katya is primarily high society, things involving, parties, hair, makeup.
Celebrities and sex tapes.
Now. Wouldn't want anyone overhearing that, would we?
Simply the nature of the circle. Someone gets ahead within it.
Castiel and Conrad both have heavy influence among the police force.
Good.
Castiel has also somehow managed to get his hands on a rather extraordinary stash of weaponry, so...
May require that in the near future. I intend to set up a security firm. I'm currently hiring one out, that's what all the guards are doing outside.
Good. You need them right now.
Mm.
Kachi has demanded that no one go anywhere alone.
Well, accompanied by no less than 5 guards at a given time, all about as heavily equipped as it is that you can be. Still working on getting
Good.
them more explosive helmets, so to speak, but I don't want to give them anything that could harm me, lest that be exploited against me. Better that they serve
Yes.
as blockades than blunt killing tools.
Yes.
It'd be all too easy
We
for.
lost a young apprentice last night. I'm assuming retaliation from Marcus.
Perhaps he accomplishes little through the execution of the units to unite for the main against him.
They were simply the only one that went anywhere alone last night. The rest of us all had someone with us at the very least.
This means he is not as strong as he projects himself to be, if that is the case. It appears his plan of compromising you all fell through rather rapidly.
Yes, it did, and he holds almost no sway in the mortal world anymore. He
All too
lacks that
easily dealt with.
influence.
Hmm.
That was the first we'd seen of him in over a week and a half. Eve has had eyes on the chantry the entire time. He hasn't gone back. That we know of, anyway.
Huh. I believe that is all I had to discuss with you, unless there is anything else. I'm currently unaware as to my sire's location or agenda. She may be returning to Orlando, but I would not be able to tell you either way. She's not. She's not equipped with such information for the moment.
He nods. Ari has always been like that. Even as a mortal, she would disappear for weeks at a time.
Usually that'd be perfectly fine. However,
Yes, it does concern me. Well, it's not out of the ordinary for her, it does raise concerns.
it is now an issue due to the change, due to the changing nature of the situation that the city now finds itself in. But with that, I have nothing more to say.
Darian will stand up and come around and extend a hand.
McLean will shake it. For the record, he generally goes by the name McLean,
Okay.
which is just how he goes by his surname more than anything else.
It was good seeing you again.
Likewise, friends.
And I look
I'll get back.
forward,
I look forward to our cooperation once more.
as do I.
I'll brief. I'll get your reports on New Chantry once I've discussed it with Primogen, and once these bolt holes and the vaults are set up, I'll confirm with you. Actually, there is one last thing I wish to discuss due to the fact that the domain is no longer secure due to its intrusion. I would not trust using modern technology to communicate. We can establish drop-offs. Depends on how you want to go about that, or if you still wish to use technology. Personally, I'm not fond of it. At this point in time, it's too easily broken down by both mundane hackers and sorcerers alike.
He nods. Indeed, I think we should find a alternative means.
Maybe magically encrypted messages is something simple that we can all do, but also physical, tangible. We all need locations to drop them off at, which our enemies will not necessarily be aware of, at least for a time. We can always change them.
I will talk to Katya, talk to the other elders, and we will figure out what to do.
Discuss over Nosferatu. This is something they'd be good at. They would not be able to read the messages if they were encrypted.
I'm well aware. Problem is getting to the Nosferatu in this damn city. There's a distinct lack of sewer systems in most of Florida. As most everything runs off of septic tanks here. Because of the unstable nature of the ground.
It's more likely than that they either live above ground or in abandoned parts of towns, projects, etc. They all have their hidey holes. Dare say they are better at constructing such projects than I am. Or at least financing them. I wouldn't call myself. Well, I would hardly call myself an architect, more than simply a man of resources to hire the appropriate talent. But I have kept you too long. I'll be on my way.
Look forward to working with you.
Likewise. Evening, Prince.
He nods.
We'll simply head towards the elevator.
Give him back his weapons, and everything will be returned to him as it should be.
Yeah, Ghoul's waiting downstairs. He hasn't actually moved from his spot. He'll just walk up to Delaney and just say, Delaney, take your weapons. We'll be heading out of here soon.
The weapons will be given back, and they will be cleared to go.
At which point, he'll head back into the vehicle. Engine's been turned off as it's been about an hour, so get back into the vehicle. And as soon as he gets back into the vehicle, he's simply going to have a clipboard handed to him, when he's going to start taking notes of what he needs to do for the evening. And sorry. I'm just trying to. Yeah. He's simply going to say, "Take me to Regent's Bank. We have some business to attend to." And his chauffeur will begin driving him to Regent's Bank, which I think is how he can end the scene.
Indeed. Thank you, players playing. Thank you, watchers, for watching. This has been another scene for Unmask Orlando, the Vampire Venue. See you next time.